No, it's a really fantastic place to be in.
I know, this place is fascinating. It's hard, even though war is a very bleak and sad subject, it's hard to feel bleak when you're in a place like this because it's so spectacular and really just so interesting and strangely wonderful in a way.
But I mean, it's from bad experiences we learn. Even no matter if you're talking about, our history, even if we did bad shit, we should still learn and remember. We should remember and learn from that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, we'll have like a kid who doesn't remember that the stovetop is hot.
Right.
Gonna get burned again, right?
Absolutely. So of course, the album is The War to End All Wars, coming out March 4th next year, and it's about where we're standing right now is World War I. So you guys, this is the second album in a row that's been based on World War I. So I know that Sabaton was greatly influenced in the beginning by World War II, and now the focus has been on World War I for quite a few years. So can you tell me a little bit why?
It felt like it was such a major conflict, and it was sort of, we had a few songs like Cliffs of Gallipoli, Angels Calling, Lost Battalion in the past, but I think it started when we decided to do the Great War, because we started the recording 100 years after the war ended, exactly on the day. So it felt like once we actually got into doing that as a concept, we realized that this is not an album. Now we're doing a second one. We can probably do 10 more albums only on World War I with the amazing stories that are there. It is, as you said, a highly interesting conflict, especially because of the start. So an archduke or prince is shot in Sarajevo.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the British are going to Belgium to fight the Germans.
Right.
So the whole concept, of course, the triggering of all the alliances wouldn't make for a great metal song, but I encourage people to, we are going to talk about that on the Sabaton History channel, so people get that, because it's hugely important. And also what people forget, we also see the birth of modern warfare here.
Yes.
In many places, many armies, when this conflict starts, we're talking about, the old way of waging war. Mm-hmm. I mean, people tried cavalry even. And we see the inception of new technologies, planes, tanks, stormtroopers are being tried. We are seeing the beginning of what would then become blitzkrieg. Of course, we're not seeing the full realization of modern warfare, but we get a sort of taste of it towards the end of the war. And unfortunately, that means gas and everything else as well.
Right. I think World War I, there initially was a truce that there was going to be no chemical weapons, right?
Yeah, they already agreed on that.
They agreed on that, and then that was broken by, it was the Germans, I believe.
Yeah, led by Fritz Haber, I think, was the first one there.
Okay, yeah, so then, your chemical weapons suddenly all over the place, which is very bad.
Not nice.
No.
There's a lot of chemical weapons in a tour bus, but not lethal.
And we can speak about this man.
The Red Baron, yes.
Yeah, who you've written about in a song, of course.
Yeah. One of the, I think, most famous legends. I think everybody knows knows about the Red Baron. I think more people know him thanks to maybe
games and movies.
And
and Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown, the cartoon. And everybody knows about him. But how many people know he's a German pilot in World War I?
And that's the interesting thing, is that because the Red Baron has been so romanticized over the years, people may not know that he was the enemy.
Exactly.
Like it's like, the Red Baron, he's so cool, and he's got his red plane, and he was such a great fighter pilot. He was also the enemy.
Yeah.
Depending on which side you're on, but
I suppose.
but you coming from America, you would be on the opposite side.
America, I would say, enemy.
And they also called the Red Baron and the Flying Circus. And you also have Monty Python and the Flying Circus.
Right.
And this one is over here. That's a Mark IV, I believe.
It's a Mark IV, that's right.
Mark IV. Mm-hmm. And we had a guide yesterday. We of course knew it was a Mother Mark IV, but what we didn't know is that there are only, what did he say? Seven existing, and this is the only one who still has its original paints and finish.
Oh, really?
So he said, in most other museums, that would have a whole fucking room for itself,
Sure, of
but
course.
Here is they have so much that,
they have so much.
But yeah, as I said, it's just standing there and you don't really think of it, but it's immense,
Yeah, let's take a closer look at that.
And this one was a really nice thing as well. This poor guy, if he
Oh,
would not
flamethrower.
be, yeah, he would carry a flamethrower, and he had this suit in order not to be burned by himself.
It's funny because it looks very flammable.
Yeah, but it's not.
Okay.
Because it's made of asbestos.
Asbestos.
Oh,
So-
it's made of asbestos,
Yeah,
really?
so the person would die in a few weeks afterwards,
Oh,
no matter
wow.
what.
So do
But-
not pierce this glass. You have the warning sign here for the asbestos. So
Do not break glass.
yes.
Then we have to evacuate and there's no listening session. But as traditional for Sabaton, we always tend to go towards the tanks.
Of course, how could you not? And this, as you said, this is the birth of the tank.
Yep.
This is the first war where a tank was used. I can't imagine what it must have been for the soldiers out there seeing something like this for the first time.
Oh yeah. Insane.
Wow.
It's, I mean, a lot of things tend to be more impressive and brutal as time goes on, and
Yeah.
a lot of modern tanks should be more impressive and brutal. But actually, this is one of the most,
Visually coolest. tank,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
so early made, and it's look to the size of it. I mean, modern tanks don't have so much to do on this one, most of them.
It's all tread too.
Yeah.
The tread goes all the way around the tank.
Yeah.
And that's
And
unbelievable.
you fit quite a lot of people inside.
I'm sure.
Modern tanks are crewed by less people.
Here we go.
Yeah, the music, I don't think that they play heavy metal though. If they did, maybe they won the war.
Maybe. Well, they say classical is just metal without electricity.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And here we have, as our lovely guide said yesterday, the German stealth uniforms.
You think they would have won with uniforms that good?
Yeah.
Carrier pigeons.
Yeah.
Yeah, who would bring messages.
Actually, there are holes on these tanks where they can let them out, for real,
They let them out from here.
from
Wow.
here to deliver messages.
I didn't know that.
And they had, because they have a military rank, these ones.
Right.
So if they get captured, they put in a prisoner of war camp, along with
Really, the
other.
pigeons would
Yeah.
be in the prisoner of
Yeah.
war camp? Oh no. They probably wouldn't really understand.
And if they did very well, they
American
could get
they'd be
medals.
all right.
American canine units, the dogs have ranks as well, and it's always one rank higher than their handler. So if they beat their dog,
wow.
they can be court-martialed for
good.
beating a superior officer.
Fantastic. I like it. And the dogs would run messages. Would they go through no man's land?
Absolutely.
They would go through no man's land to run messages.
They would even
yeah.
pull cannons. Actually, in the beginning of the expedition
pull?
where we passed, there are dogs. There's a special breed that they would have harnesses on, and they would pull small artillery cannons.
Oh
Because
my God.
other animals, men would have a high sink in the mud. Horses, everything could happen. But dogs, they were,
course.
light and agile enough to do it.
Wow.
And they are smaller in the trenches. So
Yes.
if they pull things in the trenches, they are not so high. So they don't get shot immediately like a horse would be.
Of course.
Have to see the scary zombie look-alike. They really got the
They got the face.
Yeah, the
cut
nurse
face.
is-
face, the nurse.
I'm not sure that would be
zombie
comforting if she came like that. I will help you. Oh no.
Yeah.
And as I said, the amount of guns. Yeah, and he told us these
Unbelievable.
stories about some guns there that even the soldiers made. There's a Italian grenade launcher where Italian soldiers would put like 40 degrees in a drum, start rotating it, and then open a hatch, and it will throw
my God.
grenades out. And that's stuff that soldiers built on the battlefield as the war evolved. And yeah, that's exactly the stuff we have no idea about.
That's a good way to keep your mind occupied, I think, actually. I'm going to see if I can build a new weapon from the trench.
Here we have the dogs. So we have the Belgian uniform on the right.
Okay.
So, and that's the gun in front of them. And those,
So the Belgians wore top hats?
beginning of the war, I think, depending on what you did. French didn't have helmets at all, and I mean, helmets came later.
Right.
Even the Germans had, what's it called, like leather or some sort of fabric.
Yeah.
Metal helmets came later, because of all the
Right.
shrapnel coming down from.
Right.
A lot of people think that they are metal because of the spike and stuff,
Right.
but they were leather, so they didn't really protect against bullets at all.
Not very well.
Also, those dogs there would pull that thing along somehow.
Wow.
It's
You almost feel bad for the dogs that they got roped into this whole human conflict.
yeah.
But
In World War II, the Polish found a bear somewhere in the Middle East and had him along for the Battle of Monte Cassino.
I remember I've seen on YouTube about that bear. About
Wojtek,
yes, the war bear.
warrior bear. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they'd feed him beer.
that's right. They would feed him. That bear probably had the best time.
You gotta love the Polish man.
A drunk bear.
Wow. Take a look at this artillery here.
Yeah.
These shells are absolutely massive.
And I mean, anyone being in a trench, imagine being shelled for 10 days straight.
Right, of course.
And then, possibly gas, and then possibly another attack. Imagine what it do to your psyche.
Right,
Sitting
well-
there. Are they coming now? Head up, no. Okay. Are they coming now? Now. And then after 10 days of that and gas,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be fit to fight, and defend.
Right, well, you see all the famous photographs of the men who are shell-shocked, and they look like they're possessed.
Yeah.
People didn't understand at that point what that kind of thing would do to people.
Yeah, and especially back in the early years of the conflict, when people got, PTSD, it wasn't a thing.
Right.
They were just called cowards and shot.
That's right. I read that some British soldiers were actually executed for not desertion, but just for cowardice.
Yeah.
They were executed for cowardice.
Now this is a
Oh,
big kahuna.
wow.
It's gonna be a little bit colder here.
That's okay. I think it's worth it.
Ah, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
Small room.
So this is many, many generations of,
it's just a mashup of
of
everything,
aircraft, yeah.
Yeah, you will have very, very early planes.
I mean, F-16 is still in use in the American
Sure.
Air Force, I guess. French Mirage.
And we've been here a few days now. And let's say 2 years ago, when we had the press tour for the Great War, I came here and I was meeting the Belgian media here. So I guess that's when kind of ideas were born, like we want to do something together again.
Yeah.
With them, and when we had the idea about, okay, we are making an album again about World War I, where do we present it? Oh, here. The last album we presented in France, in Verdun,
Oh, of course.
and it was very significant to that album. And being the first song to be out from the album was Fields of Verdun and presented in Verdun. And this time we choose this place.
Yeah.
I think it's a good environment to experience the music of Sabaton. Oh. So this is a little bit older times, and this obviously refers to colonial in Africa.
Oh.
Congo, I guess.
Yes, maybe there were more. I don't know, but Congo for sure.
Well, Leopold and Congo is a chapter in itself, so.
Yeah, there is. So the World War II would be upstairs here.
Yes.
We did our fair share of songs about this as well, and
Of course.
sometimes they are sensitive for some people.
Sure.
And because it's for obvious reasons, the closer you get to modern times, the more it's in people's minds.
Yes.
World War II is very controversial.
I mean, most Sabaton songs would be controversial to somebody.
Of course. I think so, depending on your perspective.
Exactly, and which side we chose to tell the story from,
Sure.
We have had a couple of let's say over the years we had a couple of incidents or things like that where people like judge or put certain stamps on the band, and I could understand that some years ago because by then there wasn't so much known about what Sabaton is.
Okay.
People could easily understand that Sabaton is just a band who thinks it's cool with war, and you could think that, if you just hear some pieces of a song, maybe you could have thought that Sabaton had political agenda. But it was really interesting that the song Primo Victoria, which is actually against, it's the Allied invasion of
Normandy. Which is where we're coming now.
Which where we're coming now.
1944.
Yeah. And
good timing, Pat. Good timing.
About that. And people thought it was a Nazi song, the Primo Victoria.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
the German distributor stopped it, and we had to give them all the lyrics for the whole album before they would release it.
Was that the song that I remember there was a slight thing you had to change something because the word Nazi was in a song?
No, they wanted to change it.
They wanted to change it, but we did not change it.
Okay, good.
Because the intro, the first track is "Through the gates of hell as we make our way to heaven," through the Nazi lines.
And
they heard Nazi like, stop! So we sent them the lyrics.
And then we started the next album with Nazi in the first part of the...
Yeah, because the record label said, okay guys, whatever you do for the next album, do not put the word Nazi in the intro. Okay, we promise. So we put it in the first verse. We can't sing about World War II and not use that word.
I know.
So we have had a couple of things like that. We also had like near collaborations very often with various, let's say, military factions, armory and stuff and things. And yeah, but usually there is some politician who stops it.
Really?
This is a battle jacket, a heavy metal battle jacket.
That is a cool patch jacket.
That's very cool.
So it doesn't contain any Iron Maiden or Judas Priest patches, but
it would have if they were around at the time.
Montgomery.
When Sabaton wrote a song about this, some people misunderstood it and thought also that Sabaton was a neo-Nazi band. But it's
very
kind
uninformed.
Very uninformed.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just for the reason that some people just want to blame and hate and find errors because they don't like Sabaton, so they...
Oh, pathetic keyboard warriors who take offense on others' behalf. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's bound to happen though.
Yeah.
So this, when I was up here earlier, this caught my eye. It's old.
That's the most fucked up Christmas decorations I've seen.
So I suppose these are authentic Nazi era Tannenbaum decorations.
I did not know these things existed.
How about that, right?
I don't know if I should laugh or cry about it, but yeah, it's.
I mean, I'm Jewish. I laughed because it's hilarious. I imagine Lemmy had one of all of these, right? But it is absolutely. Again, I'm Jewish. If these were like available at an auction or something, and I had money, I would absolutely buy them because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating that people would, again, hang Hitler's head on their tree on Christmas. It's quite the juxtaposition.
Yeah.
maybe merchandise, I don't know, but for 1939, and but you have to see it. If you were living in Germany in 1939, it probably wasn't so wrong.
No, it was probably quite common.
Yeah.
The one thing we learned is easy to sit 50 years or 100 years later and judge people and what they did.
Yes.
Without having the knowledge of what it would lead to, without.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those people were lied to. They were.
Yeah, absolutely. They couldn't check facts on YouTube.
Sure.
Or in many cases, the population would only know what the government told them. Axis Trinity of Holy of Holies, or what,
If they wanted to make a joke, they could have put Mussolini upside down.
Yeah.
Do any of you guys have relatives who were military?
I found out quite recently my mom's grandfather fought in World War One.
Really, World War One?
I had no idea. Czech side.
Okay.
So mom is from Czech Republic.
Wow. Did you learn anything about him, or just?
She
just
doesn't know. He didn't talk about it.
Of course.
He was away for. She wasn't born, obviously, when it happened.
That's very common that folks back then just did not talk about the war.
Yeah. So I don't even know what happened, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming he would have been fighting for the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Sure.
Then, you know, that's a weird thing. I found out like a few months ago.
That's a very interesting thing to find out.
Oh, I just wish I could find out more.
Of course.
Yeah, it's
There's that famous saying that history is written by the winners. Do you think that's true?
In a sense, yes, not fully, but absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you go further back in history, history is written by officers. Because if we go back only 200 years, the average soldier couldn't read or write. Oh, maybe 300 then, depending on the country and situation.
That's a good point.
And the commander, he wanted to look good. I lost because of this. It was not my fault.
Of course.
So especially when we go into older times, I think it's going to be a lot of personal propaganda making. I mean, at least with World War II, since we're here now, we have audio recordings, we have video recordings, and there's going to be, I mean, witnesses who can speak to a camera, and that can be shown later.
Sure.
So I think the later we come into war or in military history, the closer to the truth what actually happened, I think we are gonna get. Oh, that's horrible though. The British during the colonial times, I think in Southeast Asia, they would have a local kid, the jam boy, and they'd cover him in jam and have him walk so the mosquitoes would go to him.
Oh my goodness.
The shit people did, you know.
War brings out very interesting sides in people, doesn't it?
Best and worst.
Well, yeah, I would say so. I think it's interesting that some people will criticize people for collecting stuff like this sometimes.
I find that weird.
I find that weird too, because I think it's so interesting, and I think it's natural to want to be close to history in a way. So if you want to actually touch it or just have a little piece of it, regardless of whether side that bit comes from, I don't think there's an issue with it.
No, I never. Also found it strange that, you know, just because somebody's collecting military memorabilia, you're having a bunch of daggers. I know got some friends who collected daggers, and then they have all of these daggers who's done, you know, or bayonets, who has been causing all kinds of trouble all over the times. And then just because one of them happens to have a swastika on it, then it's all Every piece of memorabilia or thing you're collecting has a story attached to it.
Yeah.
And it's the story that's the important thing. And it's a very good way to tell a story. Because I think that's the most natural human thing there is.
Yeah, I think so.
If you go back thousands of years, we told stories around the fire.
I always find ships so exciting.
I think it was in, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was in World War I that both sides had these new giant battleships, but they were so expensive that neither side wanted to use them. So I think in one battle, they brought them out, and they both got damaged a little bit, and they said, no, fuck this, and they just put it back.
Well, it's better than the Swedish battleship Vasa. Huge battleship, the old king's name. It goes out of the harbor and...
Oh, really? Just immediately
Very
just
impressive at the sight of Stockholm.
Yeah, they had this huge event like, the new mighty battleship of Sweden!
The crown ship.
They got, you know, 150 yards in them.
Was that World War I? Or?
No, this is, much
18th century.
Oh, so very, very, okay, wow.
No, even earlier, 1628.
1628, wow. Yeah, I mean, you could only know so much about giant battleships at that point in history, I suppose.
Yeah. I just find it hilarious. Like, yeah, look at the new pride of the Swedish Navy, and it goes out. Didn't even leave the harbor before it capsized and sank. Oh yeah, the landing.
The landing at Normandy.
Yeah.
And just to be on one of these, and to have that flap.
I mean, this is the dream, to have a show in Normandy Beach for real, and have the people attending the concert.
Have either of you been to Normandy?
Never.
Never been to Normandy? I went to Normandy, and first of all, it's a very peaceful, beautiful place I found. But what I found really interesting and really beautiful was that a lot of people who have houses at Normandy, they all have American flags. I thought that was really beautiful to pay tribute to the sacrifice that the Americans, of course, other armies too, but but I found that very touching. And actually, my grandpa was at Normandy.
Oh, really?
He was there.
Oh, shit.
Thankfully, it was after they had pushed the Germans back. It was he was the second wave, second wave of about 170,000 men that came through. But he jumped into the water with that really heavy pack on, and went through the water, and he was saying that there was a beach master there. They was like, everyone get up the hill. And he was saying that men were so tired with these giant packs on that once they actually hit the beach, they would fall over just completely exhausted from this really heavy pack that was heavier than the infantrymen would carry. Well, guys, thank you so much for spending this time with me, talking about history with me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
It's awesome. And of course, everybody, the War to End All Wars, March 4th via nuclear blast. Make sure you pick that up. Yet another trip through World War I with the mighty Sabaton. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, guys.